Hello, Rams family, and welcome to Rams Latest, your daily source for everything in and out of the Rams house. I'm your host, Brady Petrik. Let's get into it. So, we're only a week out from the NFL draft, and it sounds more and more like the Rams are interested in taking a wide receiver with their first overall pick. The Rams are sitting pretty this year at the number 13 draft spot, which they received in a trade with the Falcons last year. And this is their highest pick since Jared Goff at number one in 2016, if you can remember back that far. So, let's take a look at who could be the newest member of the Rams herd and run down some of the top wide receiver prospects in this draft. So number one on the board is Carnell Tate. He's a great player out of Ohio State, and he's talented with a lot of big game polish and a lot of big game moments under his belt. He's tall and he has hands that just don't drop. And if he falls to 13, I think the Rams are going to snap him up immediately. But that doesn't seem very likely. I expect Tate to go somewhere within the top 10. But that being said, if the Rams are really interested, there's an option that they may be able to trade up for him. If he's still on the board in the back half of the top 10, I think the Rams could maybe do a first round pick swap if they really want someone that they're confident they can lock in that first week. Again, he has a lot of polish and a lot of experience under his belt. So a potential team that I think the Rams could look at to target in a trade in the first round would be the Saints at number 8. The Saints are in a bit of a rebuild right now, and getting a basket of later round picks from the Rams could be appealing, especially if they also get the 13th pick, where they'd be able to still pick a very high ranking wide receiver prospect, just maybe not the number one overall. That being said, I don't expect the Rams to be so lucky as to have Tate fall to them. So let's take a look at a few options of players who are more likely to be available at the 13th slot. And the top player still looking like he'll be on the board is Mekhi Lemon, a wide receiver out of USC. So someone staying local, that's always fun. And he has an all-around skill set, very much in the model of what McVay likes. And he has a wide variety of skills that will allow him to play opposite Puka, opposite Devontae Adams, and really slot into any of the existing schemes that the Rams are currently running. Lemon is also a tough contested catch player. 40% of his yards in college came after the catch. That's the kind of gritty, hard-nosed football that the Rams staff likes to see, especially from someone they're going to be taking so high. And with quick feet and strong hands, Lemon could replace Devontae on the goal line for some short yardage and touchdown scenarios. So the Rams are hoping that Mekhi Lemon could be a strong locker room presence and that maybe his more serpentine actions will stay on the field instead of off of it. But if Lemon is gone at 13, another strong wide receiver choice in that slot would be Casey Concepcion out of Texas A&M. He's another all-around skill player. Again, could be slotted up against Puka or Devontae, and he definitely passes the attitude test. However, Concepcion has had some issues with drops throughout his college career. Now, this can be coached, and McVay has one of the best wide receiver rooms in the league. I mean, Devontae Adams could teach everyone a thing or two about holding onto the ball. But after a Seahawks loss in the NFC Championship game that really hinged on specifically one dropped ball, it might be a bit of a bad look for the Rams to devote such a high resource to someone who has that specific skill issue. Now, there could be a run on wide receivers, and all these options could be gone by 13. And if that's the case, I think the Rams might look for another interesting option in Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end out of Oregon. The Rams love tight end heavy plays. They run 3 tight end sets all the time. And Sadiq is a great physical outlier in terms of his size, his strength, his speed, you name it. So I think that if there's a run on wide receivers early, the Rams may take Sadiq and figure out exactly where to put this great pass catcher later and more just focus on getting the top athlete available and really opening up an offensive weapon for Matthew Stafford. And I think that that's going to be really the biggest story coming out of the first round for the Rams is how much they're backing up Stafford with this new offensive weapon. But on the other hand, there have been rumors circling that the coaching staff for the Rams have reached out to Garrett Nussmeier, the quarterback out of LSU. Now, Nussmeier is the consensus number 3 quarterback on this year's draft, but he's not expected to go until the 3rd or maybe 2nd round. Many experts say that the draft this year has fewer top quarterback prospects than what they're expecting to see next year. So this might be an opportunity for the Rams to zig when everyone else is zagging and take a top prospect in a year when everyone else is kind of looking down the road instead. So let's do a quick rundown of Garrett Nussmeier. In 24, he had a 4,000-yard season, so we know he can handle that full season strain and really apply himself to the kind of big pass fireworks show that the Rams like to run on offense. He was injured in the 2025 season, so his production fell off a bit. But he was injured because of his style of play. He likes to stay in the pocket. He likes to cycle through reads and extend plays. He likes to challenge tight windows for his receivers. And Nussmeier also has a real talent for anticipatory passes, throwing the ball where the player is going. Does that sound familiar? Well, it should, because that's exactly the strength sheet of Matthew Stafford. So I could see why the Rams were intrigued by somebody who might fit into Stafford's shoes very easily. He has a lot of the same talent and skill, and it would allow them to pretty easily transition between these two similar styles of quarterback. And And not for nothing, an extra year to sit behind a pro has proven in recent history to be a luxury that pays off down the road for teams who are able to wait with their young QBs. I'm thinking of Patrick Mahomes behind Alex Smith or Jordan Love behind Aaron Rodgers. It could really benefit Nussmeier to sit behind a stylistically similar quarterback and get a feel for how it would be to run this offense before he actually has to step up and do it himself. So I don't expect the Rams to make a wild offer for Nussmeier, but if he's still available in the third round, he would be an intriguing option to sit and learn behind Stafford. But that being said, I don't think this pick should raise any concerns about Stafford's longevity or what the team's direction with is in the future. The Rams' first round pick is really going to be what confirms how they're feeling about Stafford's season going forward. And as with always with Stafford, there's the health concern, but the health concern really dominates his preseason talk, and it hasn't been as much of an issue as you might think. So I wanted to dig into the numbers around Stafford's previous seasons and also take a look at former MVP winners in recent history and see if there's any correlation between a good MVP season, if there's any kind of a backslide that should be anticipated with wear and tear, or what we can expect on this follow-up season. So running through history of recent MVP winners, in 2024, you had Josh Allen. And in his following season last year, he was able to maintain consistent elite production, and he had arguably fewer offensive weapons to work with even. And he improved on both his number of completions and his completion percentage in the following season, all while keeping his other stats in line with his MVP year. Going back a year further, in 2023, you had Lamar Jackson, and that win was largely due to his dual threat capabilities. And those capabilities continued into the next year. Lamar actually finished in 2024 with more passing and rushing yards than in his MVP season. He combined for over 5,000 yards of total scrimmage and 45 total touchdowns, which is pretty insane. So there's no reason that MVP play has to slow down after you've won the award. There doesn't necessarily have to be a change in the game plan or any switch ups on defense. Sometimes you can just keep delivering, as Lamar and Josh Allen both show. Going back another year before that, in 2022, the winner was Patrick Mahomes, who threw for 5,250 yards that season. So I'm guessing his arm was pretty tired. And I think you can see that a little bit in the next year. Following his MVP season, he came down to an earthly 4,200 yards and also had career worst touchdown and interception numbers as well. But that same year that he saw a fall off in his numbers, his team won the Super Bowl, and he himself won the Super Bowl MVP trophy. So there's proof that surrounding yourself with key difference makers on both sides of the ball is essential in going the distance and hoisting the Lombardi trophy. And also that a backslide in quarterback production isn't necessarily a death knell for Super Bowl hopes. And this might be something to remember if Stafford is off to a rough start in the start of the season. His first few games can be shaky, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're down and out right off the bat. I want to take a look at Stafford's career specifically because he has a reputation for being such an Iron Man, but also since he's come to the Rams, there's always some offseason worrying about whether he'll be able to start the season, be able to finish the season. And obviously, there have been times when he's been missing from the Rams, and it's really been felt. I'm looking at the 2022 season when Stafford had to sit out for a number of games due to injury. But that being said, when Stafford has completed a full season, he's never gone below 3,700 yards with the Rams. And as much as his health dominates the conversation, it rarely takes him out of the game. He has an Iron Man reputation for a reason. So with all this in mind, I'm expecting continued production more on par with Josh Allen's post MVP season, as opposed to seeing any kind of a backslide along the lines of Patrick Mahomes. So the Rams are very fortunate in that they get to keep the majority of their offensive pieces going into next year. But that doesn't mean that their offense isn't going to have a new look. And by that, I mean the Rams have announced that they're going to be rolling out some new jerseys soon. So this is not my only Rams jersey. I'm a bit of an aficionado. So I wanted to run down some of the things I'm hoping to see in an announcement for new jerseys. And first and foremost, I would love a new white away design. The Rams have had an off-white design for a few years. I believe they call it the bone design. And it's not quite as bright or as shiny as a lot of the white uniforms that you see in the league. So I'd like to see something that really pops and explodes under the SoFi lights the way that the blues and yellows do on those Rams uniforms. And speaking of, I'd also like to keep some touches of the blue and yellow as well, not just the full white and black that we've seen in the past before. But in more of a two-tone scale, I also would like to see a more retro look. I would love a blue and white throwback jersey, something matching the Fearsome Foursome from the 60s. This is actually a Fearsome Foursome jersey. And the young Rams have been talking up their plans to really deliver on defense this year. So I think it could be a pretty fun moment for the team and the franchise if they're wearing these throwback jerseys and that defense, that young gun defense of theirs has a really particularly explosive game. That could be really fun for the legacy and for the fans of the team. But whatever the new jersey looks like, the only rule for me is it's got to have a horn. I love the horns on the side of the helmets. I love the horns on the side of the jerseys. I think it's the most iconic look in the Rams catalog, whether it's the gradient look or the full-on sheep horn. I don't care. I just want it right here on the shoulder where it belongs. So I have a feeling that the Rams are going to want to harken back to their older glory days and that this could be a historic season and maybe could have a historic jersey to match. I mean, after Stafford's MVP season, the only place left to go is another hometown Super Bowl, right? Well, that's all the time we've got for today. I'm Brady Petrik, and until next time, go sheep.